Welcome in. Take a breath. You are among people who get it. Nothing forced, nothing scripted. Just real stories and a space to reflect. Let's get to it.
When we say we are women, we mean that we are brave, we are strong, we are capable, we are unique, we are woman to woman.
Good afternoon, South Africa. Good afternoon, Africa. We are still wishing you a blessed 2026. And this is our third program. Good afternoon to you, Precious.
Good afternoon, Mrs.
Visiting us
Marcia.
today.
Yes, it's always a privilege to be here with our viewers.
We welcome you and we welcome Sylvia. Welcome to Woman to Woman.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Marcia. Good afternoon, Precious, and good afternoon to the viewers.
How's 2026 treating you this far?
So far, so good. No complaints.
It will continue like this. Before we go on, we have a question for you. Pay attention.
No one prepares you for the moment you realize you've been living, but not necessarily living for yourself. There comes a point where the noise fades and the questions get louder. Have you ever lived your life according to what others expect and still felt lost? What if success isn't fulfillment? How long will you live without knowing who you are? Some questions won't leave you alone, but we are here to help you navigate them.
This seems to be a very common problem because if not to full extent, in certain areas or behaviors, we all have lived someone's dream and someone's expectations for us. I have been through that, and I guess you too.
Yes, I have many a times. I think from what career to go for, what subjects to choose in school, which school to even attend, whereby your parents have actually decided, this is what I have decided, and you're going there.
And I understand they do it looking for the best opportunities for us, but sometimes it brings upon us, and I'm talking about parents here, but it can be from husband to wife, wife to husband. It can be even in friendships that you want the other person to fulfill what you could not do yourself. I have seen situations of people giving a gift, more or less like, I don't fit in this dress, but because I love it so much and I don't fit in it, it's not proper for me, I bought it for you. So it is an extension of my dream for you, and that goes unnoticeable in every area of our life. But today we brought Sylvia, and Sylvia has experienced it in a very complex situation. Before we go into that moment of the tug war, what do I do, that we all have been through at a certain stage, tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I've got a very interesting background. I was born in exile. For those who don't know, that is to a parent who was in the apartheid struggle. And
so your parents were...
My father.
Your father was a revolutionary.
Yes, Mrs. Marcia.
Okay.
Yes. So he fought against apartheid, and he then went to different countries in Africa, one of them being in Madagascar, and that was where I was born.
So you are Malagasy?
Yes, half Malagasy, half South African. Yes, so I was born there, grew up for about 5 years there, and that was part of my childhood, foundation of my childhood. Yes.
Parlez-vous français?
Oui, but very little.
Un peu. Yeah, after 5 years moving to South Africa, you had to deal with home languages.
Yes.
And learn the culture here.
Yes. Yes, Mrs. Marsha. So growing up in Madagascar was a pretty good childhood. It wasn't anything spectacular, but it was a lovely childhood. So although I was born there, my dad made sure that I had a normal childhood before my siblings came along, that it was a normal childhood. I remember my mom saying that when my dad would go to other countries and he would come back, because, they had to be stationed in other countries as well, he would always tell her, don't tell her what I'm doing, so as not to scare me. But always, when he came back, he would
You were the firstborn?
Yes, I am. And he would always make sure to give me a normal childhood. I didn't know anything else. I was just a happy little girl. So there were no sort of ideas of what he did. And it was an interesting time. I've got a vivid memory of it, of course. But from what everyone had told me, it was a very good childhood. Yes.
And why did you come back?
Yes.
Parents and you alone?
Yes. Well, he was repatriated back to South Africa. So during the end of apartheid, I think it was just before it ended, 1991 or 1992, he came back to South Africa to build the life here. Of course, he obviously carried on. He still had his political activism, but he came back because he wanted to start a life.
Now there was some freedom.
Yes. Now there was freedom in South Africa. Yes.
How that affected you? And when did you start noticing that you were in a tug of war between your purpose, your dream, and his dreams? Because by what I understood, he was a very persuasive person, decided, defined in his concepts. And how was it to grow up with someone strong in personality?
So my dad really believed in education. So that was very important for him. I think that was one of the reasons why he also fought for the freedom in South Africa, because he knew that a certain demographic were not educated because of the color of their skin. Yeah. And he always said, I wanted my children to be educated. His phrase was always, they can take anything away from you, but not your mind. So that's always had to be stuck in me. And growing up...
Great minds.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So growing up, for me, ideally, I had to do very well in school. And I was a very good student. I did extremely well. I was one of the top in my classes from primary school to high school. I always did exceptionally well. And I think that is what sort of crafted my mind. Because also my dad he was always one of those who, when he sees the reports, he would always be like, you can do better. You can do better. He was one of those, not in a mean way, but it was always...
Encouraging you.
Yes, encouraging. You can do better. But he was almost always proud of the results that I got, both my parents, but primarily my dad. He would always make sure that education was number one. That was the most important thing to him. And that is how having a strong...
And those values were instilled in you, of course.
Yes, of course. And so that strong-willed mind that my dad had stuck with me all the time. Like, I have to do well. And even in extramurals, he was also someone who made sure that we knew certain life skills, like swimming. All my sisters and I needed to learn how to swim. He always tells us, this is a life skill. You need to know. He didn't want us not to know things that were important. So it was always making sure that we excelled in whatever it is, even in extramurals. I know in high school, I took part in hockey. Even that, he also always made sure, you need to make sure that you do well in this as well. So for him, it was always being the best at what it is that you did, but particularly in education. That was very important.
I can relate because I arrived in South Africa just when President Nelson Mandela was elected. So I got the feelings before, lifestyle, lack of opportunities, and all the transition up to where we are now. So I can relate quite well to those who had this strong personality and wanted the best for the country, especially for their families. They didn't have that opportunity. So whenever there is a chance for them, you have to grab it and you have to do it well, because I didn't have the same opportunity. And I don't want you to suffer or go through what I've been through. And I think, Precious, you relate to that because that was the sentiment of your parents as well.
Yes, as she was talking and I was thinking about extramural activities, I literally participated in everything. I didn't have a choice. I had summer, winter sports. So as she's talking about hockey, I remember hockey was one of the sports I really didn't understand. Why do I have to do it? But as she said, those were skills that they believed that they will take you somewhere in life. You need to experience everything that they couldn't have, and because they had now the privilege of allowing their kids to experience
what they didn't have.
What they didn't have. For example, my dad didn't finish school. I think he stopped in grade 4 because he had to go take care of the family. He had to help with the uncles and everybody. So for him, I remember holiday jobs were a no-go for him with me because he always felt a child needs to be a child and she needs to focus on her studies. So on school holidays, school break, there would always be some extramural activity I am doing. Saturday, I had Saturday school. Even if the school didn't offer it, they would look for one. But all of that was with the aim of saying, education can't be taken away from you. That's what they strongly believed in. And I think because of the political influences that they had, so that's what the country at that moment embraced and really believed this is what everybody needs to pursue and go for.
The reason is very honorable. We understand the sentiment, but also we can understand the burden that brings about you too. Because sometimes you feel yourself like I'm fulfilling someone's dream. Because probably your father didn't have opportunities to advance his education as much during the regime of apartheid here. So now he wanted his kids to have what he didn't have, right?
Yes, correct.
How did you feel? In the beginning, I guess, young, you didn't feel much that it was a burden or the self-confrontation. This is not what I want. When it was the moment you start realizing, oops, this is not who I am. This is who he wants me to be.
It was definitely for me the pivotal moment was in high school, grade 11. And you know, in South Africa, there is a time where you have to choose your subjects, right? And I knew I preferred the more language subjects like your history, your geography. I'm not an accounting person, a numbers person. That's not who I am. Still am not a numbers person. I prefer the languages. I prefer, you know, those type of subjects. And I knew at that time, deep down, I preferred your history and your geography. I was very good with maths. I was not a numbers person, but I loved maths. But I knew that even career-wise, I wasn't going to go, or rather, I wasn't going to be happy in sort of a numbers career. But my dad was so hell-bent on numbers. I think it was just, like you mentioned, Mrs. Marcia, about, you know, giving us opportunities that they didn't have. And I think because he knew, or he knows in South Africa, a subject like accounting will take you to a career in accountancy and a CA, a chartered accountant.
Auditor, forensic accounting.
Yes. They make a lot of money and their careers are very set. You know that you're going to have a very good future when you have that. So now if you come with a history and a geography, it's going to be like, you know, it's going to be looked at as really...
You're going to be a teacher.
Yes. And there's nothing wrong with a teacher.
No, absolutely not.
Yes.
But in his mind.
Yes, his mind was, you know, that's it. And for me, I know I loved the legal profession. I actually wanted to study law. I liked that idea and I saw myself doing that. But because I was always looking at my dad and thinking, what is he going to think? And not to disappoint him, I decided to take subjects that were not what I wanted to take. So I took what he wanted. I took accounting, I took maths, and I took science and biology, right? Because at that time there was higher grade and standard grade. I think now there's no, yeah. So there's a higher grade. It was all higher grade, but I remember one subject I had to go down to standard grade because it was just not me. Yeah, it was too much. And so that affected me in high school. And then going into matric, that was when, for me, I realized I can't, but I still carried on. and I didn't do exceptionally well. I passed. It was a university entrance, one of those, when it says university entrance. I passed. It was a good enough result, but it wasn't exceptional. And I knew that if I had taken the subjects that I actually preferred, it would have been a straight A distinction.
And in our educational system, it's very important to mention it. Your performance at grade 11 and 12 will contribute or not for opportunities in colleges and varsities. So if you needed to allocate a place for you in the future, having straight A's and distinction would guarantee that. But you did not choose because you wanted to please him.
Yes, I did. And so I did get accepted into a few of the universities when I did eventually matriculate. He was also very disappointed, I must add that, because the results were not that good. Mm-hmm. And I went to study BCom accounting. And
so
yes,
you went to varsity doing a degree that you didn't want?
Yes.
Or you didn't like in principle?
Yes, I did. And it was not a good year for me. It was the first year, and it just kept gnawing at me. This is not for you. I was not happy. You know when you're not happy in something.
So you were torn between disappointing your father,
yes,
and disappointing yourself.
Yes.
Because deep down you knew
yes,
you could have done much better
yes,
if you had gone for what it was your skill, your nature.
Yes.
We are going to hear more about that disappointment. I'm not going to give it all to you in this first block because, Precious, you have something interesting.
And we see that a lot of people, because they have people in their lives that are living vicariously through them, they actually go through the motions, and there is a certain state. For Sylvia, it was when she was in varsity. But for some others, it's much more later in life. Mm-hmm. And it varies to different aspects of your life. The house you're going to live in, the suburb you're going to live, how many kids you're going to have, what type of wedding are you going to have, how are your belief systems going to be for your family. And without realizing, there's a part of you that tug of war. Do I please them or do I sacrifice my own joy? And people don't realize that they end up finding themselves sacrificing their joy, but not giving their full potential in what they're doing, because you're just going through the motions of life. So you find a lot of young people whereby your mom says, by this age, you must get married. So now when the clock is ticking, she ends up thinking, okay, you know what, even though I know I'm not ready, let me just agree. So we end up having people living a very mediocre life. Mm-hmm. And that's why they don't actually have fulfillment. And that actually calls for our next insert that we have.
Years passed, and suddenly it hits you. You have been present but not alive. Acting, achieving, but not for yourself.
I feel like most of the time I live in people's expectations. And in this case, these people are my parents or guardians. A lot of the times I have to think before I make a decision or do something. Even if it's going to make me happy, I have to think, is it going to make them happy? Does it meet their expectations, who they want me to be? But I don't think I'm living my purpose, at least not yet.
Yes, I am living my purpose. Everything that I'm doing currently, it goes along with my plans that I've set in the previous year. So currently, I'm not living by anyone's expectations, because if I would expect anything from anyone, it would be expecting from myself, not dependent on anyone. I'm only looking forward to.
I'm living someone else's expectations because I don't want to disappoint that person. So I had to reject my own purpose, my own way of wanting to do things in order to live that person's expectation and that person expectations about my life. So I'm living someone else's expectations.
I can honestly say I am living my own purpose because of having to live on someone else's expectations. I'll have to put myself in the corner. I'll have to put myself into pretendency, of which when I live my own purpose, I can overcome, I can have my own challenges and then know how to deal with them. But having to live unto someone else's expectations, I will have to pretend to be the person that I am not.
Now the question is yours to answer. Am I living for purpose or expectations?
That's the reality. Because trying to be who you are not and living according to someone's dream, you do not excel. There are those who fail badly, but you become mediocre, and you felt like this.
Yes, I did, Mrs. Marsha. So eventually the first year passed and I made a decision, a very bold decision, to leave the degree. It was not an easy thing for me to actually decide to do, but I then left university in my first year, and that didn't go.
And your father?
He was not happy. He was very disappointed. My dad is not someone who likes to raise his voice, but the disappointment is visible. He will tell my mom, it's like, why? You know, why did she do this? And it's funny because I still didn't have that courage to tell him. So what I actually just said at that time was, you know, I don't think I was supposed to go. I was supposed to take a gap year. There's something called a gap year.
Yeah.
So I was like, I think I needed to take a gap year just to see what I want. And my dad was like, what do you mean? There's an education, you know, it's
Don't waste your time.
Don't waste your time. And I was like, you know, I need to do this for me. I just gave some excuse, but I was never bold enough to literally tell him, this is not what I want. This is what you want. And from there, I dropped out in my first year of university doing a BCom accounting that my dad wanted. And from then on, I wanted to live my own life. I went trying to figure myself out. You know how they say trying to figure yourself out?
So you did not enroll in any other course?
I didn't. And in hindsight, I believe I should have done that because there were other options. Mm-hmm. There are other options. But for me, in my mind, was my dad, pleasing him, what he wanted to do. So I always think about it, and I think I was so clouded by his judgment that I didn't even think about what makes you happy, what will give you fulfillment. So after that, I just went haywire, I could say, a lack of a better word. I just started, you know, seeing what was out there and figuring myself out, partying, going out, doing all of those things. Yes.
And I'm also thinking of...
And there was a big disappointment for him. Because now it's not only your course, it was your behavior.
Yes.
And I'm thinking this is where also even in South Africa with the current generation, when the kids are away from home and finally in res, and maybe parents are wondering, like, what happened to this child? Like, this was the plan. But maybe it's because they were choosing a career that's yours, and in their way of coping in their free time, that's why they end up going to those parties, going to those socials, all because they're just trying to numb the pain that they're facing inside of knowing that this is not what I want to do. And some of them aren't even coping, sadly.
And by the way, our last program of this month, dedicated to all those who are going to go to varsity for the first time. So we are going to hear the experiences of those who had been there, what they expected and what they found. So if that's your case or your children, please make sure you're going to tune in Woman to Woman for the last Friday of Jan. Let us go back then.
Yes, and you know, when Mrs. Precious was just saying now about numbing the pain, that was what I was trying to do. I was just trying to avoid, the conversation with my dad.
That would have been so much easier.
Much easier.
Because the disappointment you brought with behavior
much easier,
now.
Yes. And numbing that pain was trying to do other things just to avoid that conversation.
But deep inside, you knew what you wanted.
No, I knew what I wanted. I knew
you just did not have the courage to voice it.
Yes.
And that went by 1 year.
Yes, the university was 1 year, but going on.
Your party life.
Yeah, it went quite a while because I started working in sort of odd jobs and meeting people, and they say, let's go out for drinks. I would go, I would go, and it would be like going out, partying, drinking, dating guys, you know what I mean, a lot of guys, and going out. And I knew wasn't me. I knew that wasn't me as well, but I just wanted to feel as if I belonged somewhere, like someone sort of like notices me. And I thought that was the way to go about it. And it wasn't. It just, even my dad would, at one point I remember a conversation he had with my mom because I didn't come home for like a weekend. Yes, and I said to her, I'm with a friend, I will see you Monday. And my dad was like, she might as well just move out if she's going to act like this. Still in my early 20s, and he would say, why doesn't she just move out and go with those friends, then come here? Even him, he was so disappointed in the character. Like, here's the daughter that I had plans for, and she's now...
My firstborn.
Firstborn.
Born in exile.
Born in exile. I literally left Soweto to go and fight, and this is what she's doing. So that was for me, was a very, how do I say, a very tough time in my life. In between two thoughts, it's always just, I never knew where I belonged. But deep down, I always knew what I wanted. I knew. Even the going out with friends, it was always so uncomfortable. It wasn't me. But
it wasn't you as well.
No, not at all. It wasn't me. But I just felt I had to do something because I didn't know who to go. Even when my friends say, let's go there, or there's a braai, I always knew it was going to end up with drinking, and I didn't like that. That was not me, but I just wanted to go with the flow and belong somewhere.
So, you were living the dream of your father and plans for you.
Yes.
Very strict discipline, being a very great student.
Yes.
Sort of, I have my future planned.
Yes.
It was not you. Now you start living the dreams of your friends for you.
Yes.
When it was Sylvia?
I don't even know when Sylvia was. I think it was when I was at home, and I would always think, this is not even you. And even my sister would be like, are you okay? She would always ask me. She's the youngest one. She would be like, are you okay? Because she even knew this was not me. She's like, and I'll be like, I'm fine. Why? Why do you ask? And she would be like, this is just not you. You are a very studious person, and you're very like strict, and you're very structured, and because that is who I am. I like structure. I'm a very disciplined. That's who I am. But now I just wanted to be something. So I think the times that I was Sylvia was probably when I was at home, alone or with my family, and I'd be like, this is who I am. This is me. And so that was sort of spiraling out of character and out of control, slowly just being somebody that I was not.
How did you put a stop to it?
It happened, it was a couple of years. And like I mentioned, I had worked, I always found employment. Finding a job was not difficult for me, but it was always just odd jobs. And then there was a time where I wasn't working, and I really wanted to go back to school. I'm someone who likes to study. I know that sounds strange, but I like to read. I like studying. And I'm like, you know what? I need to go back. I need to go back to study. And there was a point where, when I wasn't working, I spoke to my dad. And I said, listen, Dad, I need to tell you something. After matric, I studied something that you were so determined for me to study. And he looked at me and he's like, but I never forced you to do that. I just wanted you to have an education. And I'd be like, but you would always make me, because he also liked talking to his friends. I know most parents, my daughter's going to be an accountant. And I mean, people that I didn't even know, his friends would approach me and say, are you the one who's studying accounting? And I would look at them and I would be like, yes, and they say, we're so proud of you. Your dad always talks about you, And I conveyed that to my dad. And I said, all of this was just pressure on me to be someone that I wasn't. And that's why I left varsity. And he looked at me and he's like, look, my daughter, or Puleng, because that's my African name, and you say, look, I would never force you to do that. But I just wanted you to have an education. That's all. And I'm like, It was that easy.
And you wasted
I wasted years. I
months,
wasted
years.
time. And I told him, this is what I wanted. I wanted to study this. This is who I am. I'm more of a, a law or legal or a marketing person. And he understood. And he said, just go back then. Go back and study. And I'll support you. Yes.
And then you went back.
I did. I got a job and I started studying. I said, I'm going to finish
Which
this
course
degree.
did you opt?
It was a marketing degree.
Marketing.
It was a marketing degree. I had a choice between marketing and law. Probably at law, I'll do it later on. But I really enjoyed marketing. And I said, okay, let me study.
Now you found yourself
Yes.
in that course.
Yes, in that course. And even the job.
You went back to be an A student.
Yes, I did exceptionally well in university. I was a part-time student because I was working. So later on, I couldn't do the full-time thing. So I did a part-time work and study. And I liked that. I was in my element because I was actually studying something that I liked. And I know it sounds odd, but I think for people, when they study something they like, it doesn't become like a burden. It actually becomes, yes.
It's the ideal. And
Yes.
I think our program of today brings light to many who are going through that route, and maybe many parents out there whose expectations are so high, not knowing that it will end up bringing someone who will be a mediocre when that person could excel. Because when I do what I like, it's totally different than what I have to do.
Yes.
Because we have things you have to do, there are things you like to do. When I do what I like, it has a different outcome than when I do what I have to do.
Yes.
No?
Yes, and there is a huge difference because it's what you love, that's what drives you. And I think that's why you did so well the second time around, because you were more comfortable as well. And I think it's not a bad thing because a lot of them remain out of the guilt of thinking, oh, but all the sacrifices that my parents have put in.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm the first generation in my family
Who will have
a degree, who will be the first graduate, because we have that celebration in South Africa, like the first graduate, the one that's breaking the curse of no one graduating. But you can still do it, but in what you love. And like she said, all it took was a conversation. Although it was tough, the problem wasn't maybe her dad. It was because she really took on her dad's dream and never really voiced out what she was more interested in. And it's the same that our viewers can also maybe do today, who are also doing the same thing, just going through the motions, not excelling and feeling as a failure.
And wasting years, because how many years did you waste between the first year of accounting and then going back?
It was a lot, Mrs. Marsha. 6 years?
My gosh,
Yes.
it took you 6 years.
6 years, yes. 6 years, because of the fear that I had of what my dad would think of me. And it just didn't make sense. Like I said, hindsight, I was like, why? I could have just told him up front. And also it's funny because my mom would always say, tell him. And because my mom she's the calm mediator in the family. She'd be like, just tell him. And I'd always say, tell him for me. And she goes, I can't do what you must do. My mom would always say, you need to do it. Go and tell him. Just tell him. And it was a waste. It was a waste of time.
But then you graduated.
Yes, I studied and I was working and I managed.
So now you were in peace. You
Yes.
found yourself.
Like a lot of peace. It was what I was doing. Like I mentioned, I was in my element. And even during the time that I was studying, where I was working, because I was working in the marketing department as well, later on, and they said they could see that I was actually pretty good at what I was doing. And they said, look, we'll pay for your fees as well. Well, partial payment. And we'll pay for it. And I was like, okay. I didn't know this was possible. And they paid because I was paying for it in the beginning. And then they said, we'll pay for you. I mean, you're doing exceptionally well at work as well. And we'll pay for you as well. And I was like, look at this. If I had done this sooner, I think I would have been further in life, in my career.
At least 6 years.
6 years. 6 years, yes. So everything was going really well. Working in the department and which aligned with what I was studying. Great experience as well. I was part of the team that started the marketing department, building it. It was a great foundation for a career that I was looking forward to. But then after some time, yes,
There is always a but.
there was a management change. So the manager that I had reported to, who recruited me to build the department, had left. And there was new management. And of course, we all know when there's new management, there's always going to be changes. And I was always looking, forward to whatever was going to come. I mean, I was...
Adjust to the new
Yes,
policies.
I just didn't know, yes. And there was a drastic change. And that was when I realized, okay, I'm now working in an environment where I was not happy. Like I said, I don't mind changes. I like changes. It's challenging. I like those challenges, but this one was a bit too toxic for me. And I stayed hoping it would get better, because I stayed another, 4 years, 3-4 years. And
A long time.
yes, it was a long time. And because I did enjoy the work. The work was not the problem. I think it was just sort of the toxicity around it.
Dealing with people.
Yes.
Office politics.
Yes, office politics. But then eventually me deciding that, look, this is not it. There has to be something. Something has to give here. It was not working out. And it took a while for me to sort of decide to leave as well.
What was the effect of office politics in you?
And a lot of people don't talk about this, but it does tend to have an effect on you mentally, because you're always thinking, you're using your brain for everything. And now you're thinking, having to go back there, having to deal with that. So for me, it was mentally draining. It was. I can't. And mentally draining, then it was physically draining. I was always tired because I constantly had to put in work. Constantly, it was like always overtime and doing this to make sure that your reports are handed in on time, and sort of a lot of things, but not in a good way. Not in a good way. And I know.
Did it bring you back to that anxiety you had when you were studying something you didn't want to, and that led you to a very unstable kind of life? Did you see yourself, I may be going back to that old me?
Yes, Mrs. Marsha, definitely.
Because we try to compensate
Yes.
frustrations with something else.
Yes. And for me, I think it's because I thought, look, I'd found my career now. Here it is. You studied this, you're studying this. Now it's like going back. And it did bring that anxiety. I had anxiousness all the time. I'd be like, if I leave now, and once again, what is my dad going to think? Because my dad saw that I was working, and he saw that I enjoyed it. And even that, I never told him later on, that I wasn't happy anymore. And I didn't want to bring that burden. I was now older than back then. Now I'm older now, and I didn't want to be seen as this person that just quits for anything. I didn't want that. And I think that weighed heavily on me mentally, which of course weighed heavily on me physically because I was so tired. And it was just this constant loop of, if I quit, what are they going to say? And what are they going to do? My mom knew everything because she's someone that I tell everything to. And I told her, Ma, I'm not happy. I'm not happy. And she goes, you have to make the decision as to what to do. And my sister as well, because we are very close-knit family. And I told them, I'm not happy. I'm not happy here. But once again, it's that making Dad disappointed as well. And finally making that decision to leave. Of course, he had passed away before he knew that I'd left. But the year before, we did have a conversation because he would ask, how was work? And I would be like, it's not that great. It's not what I want. And he'd be like, so then why don't you just look for another job? He was very chilled about it, not what I expected.
You see that your daddy was very practical.
Yes.
And maybe you created in your mind an image that
Yes.
you couldn't disappoint him,
Yes.
and that he would make a point. And when you spoke the truth, he said, go for something else,
Yes.
or look for another job.
Yes.
Men are very practical, and
Yes.
sometimes we women make it to be a bit more difficult.
Yes. Yes.
We see things where they are not.
Absolutely. He was, that's the perfect word. He was practical. He was just like, okay, then look for another job. And I was like, yes, I am. I'm actively doing that, looking for something, because at this point in time, because of the experience that I had in sort of the career, I had relatively good experience. I now knew what I wanted and what environment I wanted. I was very sort of determined about that. Now I knew what I wanted. I knew, because even the working hours, they would make me work on weekends as well. And that I felt was a bit over the top for me, because I also wanted to also spend time with family. I also wanted to, do things that I enjoyed and do something outside of work. I didn't want to be that person that made my whole personality my job. You are somebody else outside of that. And so when I told my dad that, look, I am looking for another job, but I was very clear in my mind of what I wanted this time. Now I wanted to make sure that the environment that I wanted was, of course, wherever you go, there will always be office politics. I mean, I'm not naive about that. But now I just wanted to make sure that what I was looking for was not perfect, but now it was something, because of the experience, it was something that I knew that I could stay a very long time and I would still be solid and happy about that. Yes.
Right message, right moment, right on time. That's Women to Women. We are live every Friday at 3 p.m. with bold, honest conversations that challenge, inspire, and keep it real. Miss the live show? Replays are always available. Find us on Instagram, YouTube, or Facebook. Just search Women to Women _TV, follow the official page, and you are in. WhatsApp at Women to Women _TV, Freedom on Air Radio on Play Store and Apple Store. Scan the QR code and tap straight in. Women to Women, where values are treasured.
Now, did you find your path in life?
I did.
And did you find Sylvia?
Yes, Mrs. Marcia. Yes, I would say that. Yes, I did. So I did eventually leave the job, and despite people always saying, "Are you sure about this? What are you going to do to survive?" And I said, "Look, this is the decision that I'm going to make," because it was 2 years, a 2-year decision-making process for me.
So it was very conscious.
Yes, it was a conscious decision. I knew. Mentally, physically, emotionally, I prepared myself for this. I prepared myself. It was constantly in my mind. This is what I wanted to do. So when I made the decision to do that earlier this year, like I mentioned, my dad had passed away, and then I made that decision. I had so much peace. Till now, it was the best decision that I made. No regrets at all. And from then on, like I mentioned earlier, I'm someone who does like to learn. So I've been doing other courses, online courses, even physically. I've even started working out and sort of consciously being taking care of myself as well, if I can say. Things that I didn't do when I was working, I started doing them now as well.
And how did you find Sylvia in all that? Because you have lived in a tug of war of pleasing your father, not finding your position, pleasing your manager, and carrying on with all the burden, pleasing your friends. How did you find balance?
For me, that balance, finding Sylvia, was through my faith. That is how I found myself, knowing that I have God who understands and who knows me. I mean, no one knows me than God. I'm close with my mom, but even she wouldn't know sort of the innermost thoughts and feelings of who I am. So for me, it was definitely my faith in God and realizing that God has my back. I know that. He knows that He will provide. He knows me. He knows what I like. He knows what I want. And I think for me, that gave me that sort of peace and just control of my life back. And this is who I am. If I make mistakes, which I have made mistakes, but they're going to work out. It's not, like you mentioned earlier, I had those thoughts in my mind that were bigger. They weren't even really there. And there would be my dad would be like, okay, then choose something else. That ended. I started stopping making scenarios in my head that doesn't even exist. And I just started saying, you will make it. All those times you didn't think you would make it, you did. So for me, I guess also that experience that I had prepared me also for this moment or for this point in time.
So today you found your peace.
Yes, I did, Mrs. Marsha.
Who do you please the most?
I know, myself. If I'm not happy, then I can't live in that hole of trying to please other people, because it's like living in a hole. You go deeper and deeper and you now can't go back up. I'm like, no, that's not going to happen this time. Is this what I want? Every decision that I make, of course, for me as well, like I said, is my faith. Is God going to be happy with this? But will I be happy as well? Is this something?
Yeah, but God doesn't impose anything
Yes,
that goes against our nature.
Yes.
God is not going to impose you to be an accountant when you have a nature to be someone in marketing.
Yes.
He uses our talents because he needs that all that we have and all who we are brings glory to him. How can I bring glory to someone if I am not at my best? How could you honor your father being contradicted by studying something it was not in you? You see, and you brought honor to him when you found your path because he was in peace. She is in control. That is the difference,
yes,
no?
Absolutely, Mrs. Marsha. And the peace now is because I know who I am now. I know what I like. So that doesn't, what other people say doesn't define me anymore. So even if they're disappointed, okay, they're disappointed, but I'm sorry. I have to live what makes me happy at the end of the day. Yes.
And I think, Precious, that's what all people should aim to come to. What it all means for today.
Basically, what it all means today is take a step back. Ask yourself, why are you unfulfilled? Why are you unhappy? Is it because you've allowed people's perceptions and dreams and ideas to be what's controlling you? And if that is your case, then it is time for you to just be honest with yourself and say, you know what, I'm not going to continue doing this way, and I'm going to choose what I will be productive in and not be mediocre in, because mediocrity eats you alive. As Sylvia said, it's almost like a hole that you just keep going deeper and deeper into, and you're the only one that can come out of it. So basically what we're saying today is stop and make the change happen from today onwards.
And now, not only having the conclusion of what it all means, what is God's conclusion to this? Let us look into his word in the book of Psalms 62, verse 5, which reads, "My soul, wait silently for God alone, for my expectation is from him." What I wanted to show to you is that not even God will impose on something that will not make you fulfilled. There is a wrong perception when we talk about doing the will of God that we don't have our own will, that God does not respect your will, your ways, your nature. And that's a lie of the devil, because God wants to use you and me according to our talents, to our gifts, to our nature, to bring glory to him. Imagine that Sylvia lived years in the shadow of pleasing the Father and wasted 6 years afraid of telling him that whatever she was studying was not her. God does not expect this. The mindset of the Father is exactly God's mindset. Okay? So do what you want to do and be happy. God says that our expectation needs to be from him because he has our best interest in hands. He will never force you to do something you don't want. He respects you, but one thing he wants, that you live to your full potential. And that you can only achieve when you surrender your soul and you wait in God. He will show you the path. He will make it possible. He will help you while you walk in this path. And when you have your victory, you don't celebrate alone. You bring glory to His name. When you establish your priorities according to God's priority, when you live according to God's purpose, that is to protect, to respect, to build you, there is no way you're going to fail. And there is no way you're going to settle for less than what God has prepared for you. You are going to excel because we serve a greater God. This is what you found in life. When you look back today, you excel so much more than what you did before.
Yes.
Because you wait patiently and your expectation became from God. We are going to pray for you right now because maybe you identified yourself with our program and you have in your mind, this is exactly what I'm living. I'm trying to please A, B, C, and I got lost in the process. I don't even know who I am anymore. Leave your expectations in God's hand, and He will do what you need. Precious, please pray for us.
Our Lord, we now come before you in Jesus' name, asking you to help this person who has identified, and probably throughout the program they're like, this is like my script, this is my life scripted, and I'm watching it unfold before my eyes. But today we ask that you help them to remove all of these expectations that have driven their lives, that were imposed and placed upon them from other people and not what they want to do. May you give them the strength, the courage to be able to stop and say, it is time that I now start living a life that will honor God, a life that will glorify God in everything that I do, in order for me to not only excel on my outwards, but having my soul also happy. Because maybe this person is thinking, here we are in the new year, how long will I be able to hold on? But as you've brought this program before them, we know that you have actually given them this moment to come before you and start a new life that will mark a change, and they too will one day look back and say, my soul has been pleased because I allowed God to be the one in whom my expectations are in. In Jesus' name we ask, amen.
Amen. So, Sylvia, thank you very much for coming and sharing. And I am sure through your experience, others out there are making a sound decision to seek for their path, for their opportunities in life. Until then, God bless you all. Bye-bye.
The first step to healing is simply reaching out. If you or someone you know needs support, email woman-to-woman@uckg.org.za or call 0800 330 320. Our toll-free helpline offers confidential, non-judgmental support.